Hello, everyone, and welcome to our virtual Q&A meet and greet forum. There's many names that I could give what we're about to go through here. You're on the Real Colorado Edge YouTube channel. My name's Ian Richards. I'm the Academy Select Program Director, and I'm joined by my colleagues on the competitive staff that we will do a quick introduction for and give everyone kind of a minute or so to tell us a little bit about themselves, their role in the club. That I could give the team that they, the team that they coach, their roles and responsibilities, how they ended up here at Edge, perhaps, and maybe a fun fact along the way as well. Just a quick overview of what we want to achieve and kind of what we're going to go through in however long we're on this YouTube live stream for. This is an opportunity for you as parents to ask questions and get answers live like you would in an in-person parent meeting. So the YouTube stream that you're all watching has a little chat function at the side. And please type your question in there, and then in a timely manner we'll answer everyone's questions and get round to everyone. So don't wait and sit on your questions and think that we're going to do anything like right at the end once we've gone through our information. Just as something pops up, please type it in, and if we can get to it right away, we'll get to it right away, but we will get to it eventually. So the view that everybody is looking at has me on this right hand side of the screen from what I'm seeing. So we're going to start with the guy right at the bottom of our YouTube live screen, which is Mr. James Rooks. James, you want to unmute yourself and just give us a little information about yourself, and the floor is yours.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ian. My name's James Rooks, and I am the U11 through U19 Boys Competitive Director. So I oversee U11s through U19s from the very first competitive program year to the seniors in high school. And Colin Mullaney will be on soon, and he's the Associate Boys Director. He and I oversee that program. I've grown up in the Arvada, Westminster area when I was a high school and middle school kid and player. I went to Stanley Lake High School, and yeah, I just really enjoy coaching and look forward to meeting all the boys and seeing the boys again and getting to know the parents. So, thank you.
All right, thanks, James. We are going to go directly above James's head to Mr. Adam Creasey, who's our Recreational Director. Adam, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, hello, everyone. My name's Adam Creasey. I'm the Director of Recreational Soccer at the Edge Soccer Club. Yeah, really excited that you guys are tuning in. I just want to make sure that today, if you guys have any questions about our recreational program, that you ask away. We do offer recreational programs for kids who are playing in the U11 to U18, sometimes even U19 age groups. So that's a viable option if competitive is not the right track for you. A little bit about myself. Grew up in Boulder, Colorado, so don't hold that against me. Went to Fairview High School, and just enjoy working with kids. I have 4 kids of my own, so prayers are always appreciated. Hope you guys are having an awesome summer, and thanks for being here.
Great, thanks, Adam. We'll kind of keep it going in that straight line of the view that we've got there. So Colin, you're next up.
All right, thanks, Ian. My name's Colin Mullaney. I am the Associate Boys Director. I have grown up most of my life in Cincinnati. Went to Eastern Kentucky University, where I got my degree in sports management. Coached in Cincinnati up until 2015. And then took a position here at another club as a boys technical director. And since then, have accepted a job here at the club and excited to continue. I've been here about 2.5 years now, I believe. Really love working with James and building the program for our boys side. And so looking forward to seeing you all and meeting you on the field.
Awesome, Carl. Thanks. I'm going to slide across to Jay Hamilton next.
Thanks, Ian. My name's Jay Hamilton. I'm the Associate Director of Coaching for the girls, U11s through U19 or 11U through 19U, and work with Ryan Henkel, who you'll meet here in a minute, directing the girls program. So a little bit about me. I'm originally from Oklahoma, moved out here in 2000. I've been with the club since 2007, so I believe I'm the longest person on the panel here that's been at the club. Been 13 years and 10 years as a director. For the upcoming seasons, I'll be coaching the 2010 girls, the 2009 girls, and the 2004 girls as well for the fall season. So that's a little bit about me. So thanks.
Thanks, Jay. We'll scoot down one to Mr. Brent McGee. Brent?
Thanks, Ian. Hey, everybody. I'm the goalkeeper director. I've been here since 2014, spring of 2014, I believe. And trained the goalkeepers essentially from U11 up. I grew up in Pennsylvania, lived in West Virginia for high school, was in Nashville for college, and made my way out west here going on 7 years now. So nice to meet you.
Thanks, Brent. And then last but not least, with the traveling banner, Mr. Ryan Henkel.
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, Ryan Henkel, Director of Coaching for 11U girls to 19U girls. East Coast guy, grew up in Connecticut and Vermont, moved out here in 2003 after strangely breaking my neck playing soccer. And here I am. I was at a club for 12 years here in the local area and as a director of coaching there as well. And 5 years ago, saw an amazing opportunity to come here and continue to work the craft that we do and work with an unbelievable staff here that you're looking at and just really blessed to be here with you guys. So back at you, Ian.
Thanks, Ryan. All right, so I kind of said this right at the start for everyone that is tuned in. It looks like we've got close to 30 people that are on right now. If you do have questions for any of the kind of panel that we have assembled here, please type it into that live chat window on the YouTube feed that you're currently watching, and we'll certainly get to it as and when those come in. There could be about this transition through the trial period, what future seasons look like for your player, or playing options recreationally or intermediate or competitive, whatever track that you're kind of considering for your player during this time. I do want to move our conversation on to the timeline within the playing options that we have here at the club. And I think, James, as you and I had briefly spoke about this earlier today, if you would like to kind of provide us a timeline for the competitive program, kind of, I guess, from tomorrow onwards.
Sure. Yeah. So this is competitive trial or timeline only. So we are still in the process of finding out about fields and when we can start to get on the fields. We are hopeful to have tryouts the week of June 22nd, and those tryout times and dates are posted on our website. Those still could change some, so stay tuned for that information. And then with tryouts comes a little break, and we really get going starting July 20th. We have a preseason camp that you can sign up for as an individual, and that's open for you to sign up for now. That camp is run in the evenings, Monday through Friday. We typically don't have Thursday nights, so it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then we saved Saturday as a day that we can do any makeup days for that camp. Right after that, we start team training in late July. And so teams will begin training. We're hopeful to have teams starting to play in tournaments the weekend of August 13th through 16th. And that's a local tournament. That's where teams usually play in the Broomfield tournament or the Boulder tournament, the Players Cup. And Ryan, the girls are starting the same weekend, right? Yep. So the girls and the boys are starting that weekend. Some teams will play in one tournament in August, some will play in two. And then the league season will start in late August with a double header. The second to last weekend of August, that would be the 29th and 30th of August. League season would start, and the league season is 8 or 9 games, and that runs through early November. There's another couple tournaments that are potentially on the team plans for teams in the fall season. So typically you're looking at 1 to 4 tournaments per season, depending on which team you're on and different things that are led by the staff and the coaches on which team tournaments that your team plays in. In the wintertime, it's a individual basis. Some teams do indoor soccer. That is not a club. Indoor soccer is not a club event. Some club teams do it, but we don't have any control over scheduling or games or times or any of that stuff. We don't have training options usually for those indoor teams. And that's based off of you as an individual family, whether you want to participate in that or not. And you know, but again, we don't have any control over who does indoor, which teams. That's kind of a on your own type of thing. Some coaches are involved in indoor and some are not. And then we also have a futsal court at our office that we also do trainings and camps. We also have winter camps through the club that are a lot of fun to come to. In the springtime, I'll do a little bit more brief in the springtime. We start up late January, early February. We do a tournament in February, another tournament potentially in late February, early March. And then the spring season starts in mid-March. This year, the 2010 select team and United team will have State Cup and President's Cup in March. And that runs from March to April. On weekends, usually, the weather plays a big role in messing the schedule up in the spring. I'm sure a lot of you know that with playing soccer already. Please be prepared for both weekends of spring break having games. Both weekends, they schedule games, whether league games or State Cup games, President's Cup games. There's games those weekends. And then the season wraps up usually with Real Cup or the Stanger Invitational, which we host in Arvada. Some of you have participated in that event, and that is over Memorial Day weekend. And then late May, early June, we're back at tryouts again of 2021. So that's a competitive timeline that you're kind of looking at.
All right. Scary to think we're a year away from another tryout, right? So we had a question come in from Adam Stowitz, who asked, how many kids typically show up for the U11 tryouts, and are there many non-academy players? So I guess that's kind of open to whoever wants to jump in for that answer. I know you guys track numbers year on year, and obviously we keep tabs on outer club kids versus the in-house recreational, and also the kind of graduating academy players. So whoever wants to jump in and kind of, if you've got it off the top of your head, the previous numbers.
Sure. On average, it's usually 60 to 80 kids come to tryouts. There's years that we have more numbers. There's years that we have a little less number. But on a typical year, it's right in that 60 to 80 range. Looking to make 5 or 6 teams of 12 or 13 players is a typical year for us. Thanks, Mr. Stowitz.
And probably consistent on the girl side, right? Jay and Ryan, numbers wise, and even teams.
Yeah, it's very similar, and again, it depends on the year. Anywhere from, again, 60 to 80 would be a fair assessment.
Which probably leans to the next question that came in from P. Russell that said, how many teams do we plan on forming? And I guess I could probably segue out of your guys' response to the last question of there's factors in it that include how many kids show up, how many coaches we can recruit to deliver kind of down a depth chart of teams. And yeah, there's not necessarily a set number of teams or a goal or a target that we have to hit or anything like that. We're happy to bring kids out onto the field, and we'll try our best to place every kid that does come out. And that actually would probably segue me into bringing Adam back into the conversation. We were going to Adam, I was going to have you talk about the recreational timeline. If you could kind of give us vague dates of where that recreational season may begin, what the registration period is, and that also might kind of cross over with our last talking point there over perhaps players that are either on the fence about that competitive program, or maybe there isn't. We can't honor that plan of trying to place everyone. So Adam, if you give us that kind of run through of the fall season of what recreational soccer looks like.
Sure. Thanks, Ian. So the recreational soccer window to register is currently open for families. That's going to stay open till about the first week of August. Typically, I will extend it for those latecomers. Practices will start the week of August 17th. So yes, our timeline is definitely a little later than the competitive timeline. And the reason being for that is, we want to make sure that every player gets a chance to play. And we have a lot of latecomers who are a little unsure if they want to do comp or recreational soccer. First game is typically the week after the competitive season. So I believe James, you said late August, that last weekend of August, we'll go the first weekend, which can be a little concerning because there's Labor Day. But for you families, we play in what's called the Denver West League. So this is a partnership between Edge Soccer Club, Westminster Soccer Club, Table Mountain Ice, and Wheat Ridge. And the nice thing about this partnership is we have the ability to really kind of create our own schedules, a lot of flexibility. And the biggest one, obviously, is a lot less travel. And typically at Edge, we have more recreational teams than some of the other clubs. So what may be a home game for one Edge team, they're playing another Edge team, and technically they're the away team, but it feels like a home game. So it's pretty cool. It seems to work real well. Parents seem to love the fact that it's still very local, with a little less, definitely less travel than the competitive program. Then our last games are early November there. On that note, as Ian was talking about, after competitive tryouts, obviously we try to make as many teams as we can. Ian mentioned a lot of the reasons why we try to do that, but sometimes it becomes just purely a numbers game, or there just may be some kiddos who, need a little bit more time to learn the sport. So, if you don't, for some reason, your child didn't make a competitive team, I would hope that you would always look towards the recreational soccer program as a viable option for your kiddo. And the great thing about all these guys here is that we all work together. So even though a kid might be playing recreational soccer, they're more than welcome to, reach out to a coach, and we can find them time to still, moonlight on a competitive practice to keep them in the mix. So we work real well together. So just because a kiddo might go U11 recreational soccer doesn't mean that they're on the path to always be a recreational player.
Yeah, great point, Adam. Thanks. Probably a good message to convey in this kind of forum is while we are approaching a tryout period, and probably the first, I guess, official tryout period for 11U, by no means is that a hard line and a end all and be all. You either make a certain team or you don't, and that's much like a lot of the academy families that I'm sure that are watching now. They kind of know that it's an ongoing process and a flexible environment. And obviously the panel that we've assembled here and the great staff that we have at Edge. We're always in contact for, providing opportunities for players. So I'll jump onto the chat again, guys. From Colin Ushihara, how many days a week practice during regular season for the 2010 age group? Whoever wants to jump in on that.
Sure. Select and United teams practice 3 days a week for 90 minutes at a time. And Legends, Eagles, Mustangs, Wildcats, and Panthers, they practice 2 times a week for 75 minutes.
And on the recreational side, our teams practice twice a week for an hour.
Got it. Thanks, guys. I actually skipped the question. Sorry to the Schultes family. Given that we lost the entire spring season, no one was on the field, and obviously we haven't really done a whole lot since early March. I know that the academy players got a tournament in Littleton early March. So the question is, what the tryouts consist of? What are the expectations for all players out there? And I guess in a roundabout way, what's that kind of logistical plan? How's it going to look, or how do we hope it looks in its current state of play of what we're expecting from a tryout?
That's a good question. The biggest thing with youth soccer is we want to make sure that the kids are having fun. And so the biggest thing is we hope that the kids are able to come out and play and just have a good time and not be stressed about it, not, just be relaxed. That's the biggest thing. We as a staff talk to coaches. We talk to the competitive staff, talk to Adam Creasey about recreational players. We talk to Ian Richards about the academy select players, and we're in contact with Keith and Eric about players and the assistant coaches as well. What tryouts are really going to look like, we're not completely sure yet. We're still waiting on guidelines from the city and county on what that's going to look like. We're just not sure yet. So, we plan on giving that information out as soon as we can. But the biggest thing is for the kids to come out and play and have fun. Directors have seen the kids play. Ryan and Jay have seen the girls play. Colin and I have seen the boys play. Ian knows everyone, of course. Adam knows the rec kids and coaches. So, we can get information that we need from those coaches and directors.
And to add on to that, James, if you don't mind, given this odd year that we're in and going through, it is fantastic if you guys, as you guys spend time getting to know the entire staff, the communication levels between us. So, as the year goes, we're going to, we want players to be in a place where we have a proper balance of challenge and success, and we're going to make sure we watch players throughout the year. So whereas tryouts might not be what they usually look like, we're still going to be monitoring them throughout and making sure players are in the right place to have that balance of challenge and success. We don't want them to have too much challenge or too much success. We want them to make sure they're developing. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Jay, I'm going to bring you in to answer a question, if that's all right.
Sure.
From B-Show, how many kids do you have on each team? What's the kind of, this is the 4th intake of a 99 tryout since the small-sided change. What's kind of the, ballpark or average kind of roster size?
Yeah, usually the average that we usually like to go with is usually a minimum of 11. We usually like 12 at the minimum, but we can get away with 11. So it's usually between that 11 to 14 range, max being the 14 for a 9v9 team. And the reason why we try to keep it into that range is, to make sure that kids are, getting the playing time that they need to continue to develop at this age. And even though, I'm sure we all want to win every game and do well, it's still about the development piece for these kids. And so we want to make sure that, going back to what James and Ryan said about putting the kids in the right environment. We want to make sure that's part of that process, as well as making sure that playing time piece is there for them. So usually between 12 to 14 is a good number for us.
All right, cool, man. Thanks. Carl, I'll bring you in as well then. You're on the hot seat. Question from Sandra. Do you know when the team plans will be announced? And I know you guys have been, it's kind of a year-long project in it to finalize team plans, but
of course, you know, there are some a couple of things that we're continuing to look at, you know, with the whole COVID situation on our team plans. However, they are developed. James might be able to tell us a little bit more about when we plan to release those. I know that we've got them, you know, worked on and pretty well ready to go. But James, do you have any feedback there?
Yeah, Sandra, thanks for that question. That's a good one. Helps to keep all the families organized and kind of know the plan of each team. We're looking at June 15th to have those released, and they'll be available on the website under the tryout tab, June 15th.
all right, there it is, June 15th. All right. Brent, seems so you're not, you haven't been asked a question yet. Someone has very kindly asked us about a goalkeeper position. Their child likes to play goalie on the field. And the question is that okay, or do they have to choose one or the other at U11?
No, at that age, most goalkeepers are part-time. We have a few full-time that come in, but typically goalkeepers are playing both on the field and in the goal. So that's no problem.
All right, sounds good. Actually, Brent, while we've got you there, given our obviously we could be in a quite unique situation on how to deliver a tryout this year, but typically, how do you interact with tryout groups, and what does, if you could answer what that usually looks like, how you obviously break away and do your thing. So go through timeline of what you would do on the field at a tryout event.
So typically, you'll register as part-time or full-time goalkeeper. I'll address all the kids as they come in as a big group, and anyone who is a goalkeeper that registered beforehand, I'll take for about 20-30 minutes and just run through some goalkeeper drills and see, just get an idea of where the kids are at with their technical ability and how long they've been playing, etc. And then I'll send them back to the fields. They'll hop in goal or hop on the field, depending kind of what they want to do. Sometimes if it's a part-time goalkeeper, if we have a 2-night tryout, they'll pick field one night and goalkeeper one night. So they can, kind of make the best of both worlds, if you will.
Well, mate, thanks. Yeah, probably that last piece you talked about is the key piece for the part-timers, right? Knowing that they can still showcase their kind of field abilities and then get the opportunity to get in front of you as well. So thanks for that, Brent. All right, another question. Schulter's family, I'm sorry, I keep skipping over you. It's not intentional, I promise. So I guess Ryan or James here, do we have coaches identified for all the competitive teams? Obviously, kind of like building any plan, that's kind of a fluid entity as well. And I know we published a list of what we did have confirmed. So do you have, I guess, any more info about that coaching lineup?
Yeah, I mean, James, we don't have all competitive coaches assigned, but we do have all positions being chatted with coaches that potentially fit the right level for those teams. So for us, it's very important to make sure we fit the right coach to the right level team. And so whereas we don't have them 100% in, they will be as we approach trials. So James, anything to add to that?
Yeah, just like the boys, where we try to, boys and girls, the players that we try to place in the correct environment, we try to do the same thing with coaches, put them in the right environment with the right group. And so the boys have 4 coaches named, Kyle Kleberg, Joe Gillespie, Chris Horning, and Frank Marquez. Those are the 4 boys coaches that we have for the 2010 age group. And we're still looking for 1 or 2 more for the age group. But, yeah.
Thanks, guys. I want to hit our little, we built a little agenda just to keep the conversation flowing. Let's move towards Carl Sutton that you and I were speaking about earlier, which is the multi-sport athlete that we deal with often. If I can bring you in just to kind of get your thoughts on how you personally have handled those kind of conversations with families. And I guess, I mean, I'm confident that we're all pretty much on the same page as a staff and as a club, but please kind of talk more about the multi-sport athlete and how that impacts their ability to represent the club.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Ian. And that's a great question, and a question we get a lot, because a lot of these kids like to play multiple things. And here at Edge, we really support multi-sport athletes. Not only do we just kind of feel it's okay, we support the idea. Kids get a lot out of doing multiple things. So at almost every single age, we cater and we take care of kids that want to do multiple things and multiple sports, and just as long as the communication is open, training misses or potential games that they have to miss and things like that. So as long as the communication is open, we support multi-sport athletes. The higher levels that you go in the competitive realm, it becomes tough. Not just on the family, but it is never. We've never said, "Oh, your kid plays hockey, you can't play soccer." That's not going to be the case here at Edge. If I answered that okay for you, Ian?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Ian, if I don't mind jump in, this doesn't just apply to the 11-year-old. I mean, we have 17-year-old athletes that are playing. They're national level runners and also playing on top teams in the country for our club. So it doesn't just go to the younger player. This is all the way through their career. So
That's exactly right.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, guys. All right, we'll jump into the chat again. Question about traveling. Do competitive teams have to travel out of state? And I guess we could obviously, with the whole purpose of this being a U11 conversation, I'm going to lean on James for this one, I think. Could you talk to, I guess everything's provisional right now, but the provisional plan of everything and what out-of-state travel looks like moving forward?
Sure. Typically, Mr. Russell, that's a good question. Typically, our first and second teams travel out of the state, and we start that at U11. However, this year could be a little different with COVID and kind of where we're at as a society and community. We're talking about what travel, if we're going to travel, how we're going to travel. We're talking about all those things now, trying to make sure that we do what's right for the kids and the families. We want to make sure that the kids are safe. That's always our priority one. When we're on the fields, when we're off the fields, safety is our priority. So typically, yes, they travel at least one time a year. And we've gone to places like Las Vegas and Phoenix, Arizona, Kansas City, Missouri, California. Those are kind of the typical places that we've traveled in the past. But again, this next year is going to possibly and probably be a little different, just because of the health guidelines and concerns that are out there.
Awesome, thanks, James. Any of you other boys want to contribute there? I think you pretty much hit it right on the head. As much as we've said it probably a handful of times already, we're kind of, everything's provisional, everything's up in the air. But in a typical season, if we were to talk of, if we were having this exact forum 12 months ago, then there is travel involved. Actually, James, a quick follow up. What levels of team, what label of team do those?
Oh, sure. So the select team and the United team, so team 1 and team 2 are the teams that typically travel throughout the year. Other teams have some travel opportunities, but it's more in-state. So There's a Vale tournament in October, Steamboat in July. Colorado Springs and Fort Collins have events as well. That there can be some travel and some hotel stays and things like that. But typically outside of the state, travel is select and United teams.
All right. Thanks, Bud. So the next question down on our live chat from a family member that's watching on. Jay, I'm going to come to you, bring you back in. What age do you identify a player's position on the field?
I think every kid is different. I think at U11, we try to move kids around as much as possible. And they'll play in the back, sometimes, or play up top, or cycle through the midfield a little bit. So sometimes it's a revolving door where players can play multiple positions, and sometimes some coaches, they have those players that are very good at certain positions and just get it sometimes. And so I think it all depends on the player, but I think we do try to, for the most part, try to move kids around as much as possible to give them that variety of positions and different tactical situations that they're going to see during their careers to just to improve their development throughout. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Sorry, I almost clicked myself away and ended the meeting. That wouldn't have been good. Okay, so next question in. B-Show's back on. Could we elaborate what are some of the differences we'll see from the academy program versus the competitive programs? And B-Show, if you want to type a little more about what we could really nail down from that, but what I'm going to kind of assume would be, is it the game format, the physical kind of how the game looks on the field, or is it the delivery of the program? So I guess I'll answer that in a way first. So obviously the academy program, we do this pool system, this large 2-team, sometimes in the last year 3-team training pool, and we kind of blend the kids all through, and we have the kind of structure of laying a foundation that's going to hopefully progress all of our players individually throughout their youth careers. There's no training pool in the competitive program, so the 12, as we said earlier, 12 or 13 players that will be invited to take part on a roster would then train exclusively with those players and those teammates, and form those tighter bonds with a smaller group. And yeah, that's I guess it looks a little bit more like the team sport that we all know and love. Guys, if you have anything else to add, obviously I was speaking there from a academy specific with the kind of unique pool system that I run in that program. So please jump in if there's some more you'd like to add.
Yeah, I think that's the big difference. Ian and his staff and Adam have done just a great job with the kids and the players, the coaches, and so we as competitive coaches and directors, we've been really happy with the players that have been coming out of U10 or 10U soccer at the club. We've just been super happy. Our teams have been very competitive. The players are knowledgeable about the game. They're ready to go when they get to us. So, that's been a nice thing over the past 3 years that Ian and Adam have provided that information to the players and coaches just to make all the players better. So that's been great. So, we want to continue challenging the players. B-Show, we want to make sure the kids are having a good time while they're playing soccer. But the biggest change is it becomes you start getting more team environment instead of the pool play that academies had. So that's the biggest change. And 7v7 to 9v9, 2 more players on the field. The rosters get a little bigger as well. but still professional coaches who are looking to make the kids better with professional directors, providing coaching education to those coaches. And, those are the big things.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Thanks. I guess B show the other piece that everyone, well, a lot of people will be pleased about is there's no more build out line. So we go back to the field looking like a soccer field. Obviously that line has its advantages in the foundation that we lay in that academy program, but now we kind of push again, like everything that progresses up, we push the players into a new scenario and a new situation of kind of the real game, so to speak, like the live game of immediate pressure when the goalie releases the ball, and not this kind of safety net of that build out line, even though that does obviously encourage prettier soccer. So there's that's lifted at least, and the field gets a little bigger as well. So you got it. I was just about to. Oh yeah, Crease, Adam. Sorry, I'm going to bring you in. So you have a question about making a competitive team if their son did not play in the academy, and I guess I'll ask this question, and I'll send this question in your direction because obviously over the years we've worked together in finding the appropriate team for a player that's perhaps ready to make that leap.
I'm sorry, one more time. What was that question?
So does a player have to have played in the academy program to make a competitive team?
Oh, no, not at all. So if you did not play in the academy program and you played in the recreational program, there's still spot for you. Again, I would allude to what Ryan was talking about. We want to place a kid where they're going to be challenged, where they're going to have success. But just because you didn't play academy doesn't mean for 1 second that your kiddo couldn't make a competitive team. For a lot of families, they just didn't do academy for a variety of reasons. But, we're here to give kids an opportunity to play at the highest level and what level is really appropriate for them. I've always looked at it from a family perspective, having kids of my own. It's just, where do you want your kid to be? What is your time frame like? Do you have the ability to get your kiddo to practice 2 to 3 times a week? Are you committed to a little bit more travel? Those aren't questions that, those are questions that need to be answered. And for every family, it's just a little different. But I think the most important thing, as somebody who's on the screen today chiming in with us, is, there's a place for your kid to play, whether it's comp or rec. And we're here to support you guys as parents, and more importantly, to support your player. We just want to get them in a spot where they're going to have some fun, they're going to have some success and be challenged.
Yeah, I've got something to add there as well. Thanks, Adam.
Yeah,
sorry. There's absolutely no reason a player that did not play in the academy, there's no reason that they cannot make a competitive team. There are levels for everybody, like Adam was saying. And on a personal note, I had a player that didn't choose to play competitive soccer until he was under 14, and it turned out to be the first player that I've coached years ago that signed a professional contract. So there's no reason to think that spending some time in recreational soccer is going to prevent you from future soccer, or there's no reason to say that my son didn't play in the academy, he's not going to make a competitive team. That's not true.
Do you want to name drop the player, or?
His name was Kevin Walker, and he played in Australia.
Oh, nice. So there you go. All right. So I guess we've kind of had a few talking points over the time that we've been on, over knowing that we're about to head into a tryout period and a decision has to be ultimately made. Know that the club, the staff that are here in this call, we want to kind of treat every player with as that individual, and we want to try and match up what fits both the player but also obviously the family, and we'll support and provide as much guidance and advice and stories about previous age groups and players, because we've probably seen it all before, and we can, we're certainly a resource that that everyone should kind of lean on us for that experience and that advice. So thanks, Adam and Colin, for that last input. Another question then from the live stream, from the live chat. Do kids move up and down during the season? I'm assuming that means roster to roster. Or are they on the same team for the year and then they would try out again in 12 months for a U12 team? Any of the comp guys want to jump in on that? Feel free.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Ryan.
No, you first.
Yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead. All right.
I should just pick, right? I should just pick someone. Sorry. Go on, Ryan.
James, you're up, brother.
All right. Yeah, typically we don't move any players in the fall season. Sometimes, and sometimes it happens where at wintertime a player's just not in the right place, and there needs to be a movement up or movement down. That typically doesn't happen. And so, we try to do our diligent work throughout the year before tryouts happen. Obviously, this is a little bit different year because we didn't have a spring season. But typically, we do our work during the year, and we know how the player plays and if they're in the right place or not, right? The right team, the right environment with similar kids. We know that throughout the year. Now, this has been a different year because of COVID, but we're still doing our best to work with coaches, to work with the directors, to place players in the right place. And we want to get that right at the beginning because it's just sometimes it's not fun conversations to have in December that we're moving a player down. Obviously, most people are happy when they move up, but sometimes it's the reverse, and we have to have those conversations. So typically, yes, they stay on the same team for the year. And, ever so often there's movement during the year. But we also provide opportunities to train sometimes with other teams, to play on a need or a deserved basis. They can play on other teams as well during the year. But as far as kind of a home team and a home-based team, I'd say most of the players, once they're placed on a team, play on that team for the year.
Did you
Ryan?
want to go, Ryan? Did you have anything? I'm sure it probably just echoed James's thoughts, but
Yeah, pretty much echoed, and even more importantly, just there's never a shock. We're always going to communicate in a timely manner to make sure that nobody's surprised at any point. It's important to know that if there happens to be change, and as James, I mimic what James says, it's a very unlikely situation, but should any of that happen, there's always communication from us. So.
And just one more point. Sometimes players develop really fast as well. 6 months goes by and some players just develop quicker. Their light bulb goes on faster. They start to develop at different paces. Some players take more time to develop. That's why it's great that we have so many levels and opportunities in our club. We have a competitive group, we have a recreational group, and we get to place players where they need to be. So, sometimes the players develop really fast and outplay their environment. If they're outplaying their environment, we'll do our best to get that player into the correct environment. That all that being said, we want the kids playing in the right spot.
thank you, James and Ryan. So a question about a practice location, Jay, because I know you're the master spreadsheet practice organizer guy. A practice is at Stenger or Long Lake?
They could be at both, and we usually give the coach that choice to choose what location they would like. And sometimes it depends on time as well. We usually offer 3 time slots each evening. And if somebody is choosing the later time slots, then lights are usually required, which Long Lake is the only facility that we have that have lights. So, but it's usually coach's choice, and it could be at either of those places.
Am I right in asking if it's typical once a coach picks a spot, they usually all the practices? I don't know. I don't think there's anyone that has a night at Stenger and a night at Long Lake.
Usually the only coaches that do that are directors, just so they're at both facilities throughout the week. But most team coaches will pick one facility and they'll be there the entire time.
Gotcha. Thanks, mate. All right. So I have an agenda item, and this last question that just came in, I'll get to in just a sec after we cover this, about the league structure. So either, I guess, James or Ryan, if you want to interrupt each other. The league structure. So within CSA, and I guess I'll hopefully try and lead you in, we have obviously the different levels and different leagues and different labels of leagues, and people may have heard a certain label thrown out. And I guess if we could just kind of nail down and clear up everything that the CSA deliver and what the levels mean and what the labels are, and try and, I guess, get people starting to be familiar with the terminology. If either one of you want to jump on first.
Yeah, I mean, James and I are going to talk about it now. There's the leagues going from top down. And your first three leagues, called the Champions League, divisions based Premier 1, Premier 2, Premier 3. Those are petitioned in leagues where your roster has to suggest that you deserve to be in that league, and there's promotion relegation midway through the year. And then there's the Centennial League, which is split into starts at elite, goes to platinum, goes to gold, goes to bronze or silver bronze, and so on and so forth. And those are opt-in leagues where we place our teams where we feel they're going to have the proper level of success, but also challenge. We don't want a team to go 10-0 every year and score 100 goals and 0 against, but we also don't want teams to go 1-9. So those are opt-in leagues, and of course there's always you don't always know the teams or what other teams are opting into leagues. But so Champions League, Premier 1, 2, 3. Standing based and roster based on history or history that's known, and then of course Centennial League, where again it's what we feel is right for our teams and our players to have that proper balance of challenge and success that I always like to go to.
Good stuff. Anything, James, or pretty much covered it? All right, good stuff. Actually, that segues into kind of this. We talked about the State Cup being in the spring for this particular age group. State Cup and now just President's Cup, if I'm right in that. How do I word the right way? How does CSA ultimately form and accept teams into one competition or the other, and what are the limitations of State Cup versus President's Cup in terms of entry?
Sure. Typically, there's 3 different cup competitions. There's a State Cup, a President's Cup, and a Centennial Cup. Centennial Cup will not happen for 2020, 2021, just due to COVID and making sure that everybody's taken care of. State Cup and President's Cup, anybody can play in State Cup, any team. Typically, our select teams play in State Cup. Some select teams play in President's Cup as well. But they don't allow teams that are in Premier 1, which is the highest league in the state. They don't allow those teams to play in President's Cup or Centennial Cup. So Premier 1 teams can only play State Cup. Everybody else can kind of play in any of the cups. Typically for us, for boys, the 2010 boys we're hopeful that they play in State Cup in the spring, and that the United team plays in President's Cup in the spring. That's our hope. That's our goal. But typically on the boys side, maybe on the girls side as well, Ryan, you can touch base on that. But if a boys team is in Premier One, we have them play State Cup. If they're not in Premier One, then typically they play President's Cup, no matter what their team label is, Select or United.
All right, thumbs up from Rice. So it sounds consistent on both sides. Brent, we're on to you. We have a goalkeeper question. Are you ready? Is there specialized goalkeeper practice during the season for both competitive and recreational players? The goalkeeper.
There is goalkeeper training for competitive players between Monday or Thursday during the week. It just depends. Schedule kind of changes each season. But yes, if you're in the competitive program, you will have an option for goalkeeper training no matter what team you are on. So there you go.
And am I right in saying the recreational level would be more of a camp or a clinic?
It'd be more of a camp or clinic.
Yeah, kind of style.
That's correct, yes.
Cool. All right, good stuff. Thanks, Brent. Adam, I want to bring you back in because I know we've been talking a lot about all these different competitive options, the all-encompassing world of the travel and competitive soccer. Can you, I guess, cycle back to your earlier thoughts, just in case anyone missed it, with kind of the delivery of our Denver West League and anything else that you have, I guess, on your mind to make sure everyone's informed about those recreational options?
Yeah, I mean, practices will always be at Stinger, so that's something that's a little different than some of the competitive teams. We won't have recreational practices out at Long Lake. To kind of go back a little bit, loop back, we were talking about player numbers. I do try to cap the recreational program at 15 players max to a team. We're still playing 99, but again, we are recreational, so we want to try to make sure that every player gets a chance to play somewhere. So sometimes rosters can get a little bit bigger. Regarding the Denver West League, what's nice is it'll be very similar to the competitive program in terms of games will be on Saturdays. But I want to reiterate what's nice is games are played at Stinger. More often than not, you're going to have more games at Stinger than anywhere else. The farthest you're traveling is Westminster and Golden. Now, depending on the number of teams, sometimes there are some teams that come, how do I want to put it, like intact. They've been playing together for a long time, and maybe our Denver West League is not suitable for that level of play. So then we will opt to put a team into the state league, which I try to make it very clear with parents. That just means that there's a little bit more travel, as we do have some teams that come from recreational that just, they just want to stick together. They're good friends, they're good buddies, but they're also quite talented. So that seems to be a good fit for them as well. The only other caveat to that is when working with the other clubs is sometimes depending on the number of teams we have, we're able to make multiple divisions. So we're able to kind of split up the talent level there in terms of the teams. And sometimes we just don't have as many teams. So it's just one league. But after the fall season, we kind of navigate those waters as to how the teams were competing, and we can be creative and make sure that there's some good matchups.
Cool, mate. Thank you very much. All right, so we've been on for about an hour, which I think may kind of bring us to a close. Hopefully everyone that tuned in, I think we were averaging kind of in the 30s of live viewers. Hopefully everyone that tuned in got some information that maybe they were unsure of before they came on. I guess at minimum, hopefully you all now know what our faces look like. So when you see us out at the field, you can give us a wave and yell at us from across Stenger or Long Lake, and we'll give you a wave back. And this, if you're watching on the replay and not necessarily live with us here on a Monday night, the comments and the questions should populate in again. So while I reiterated those questions for the staff to answer, you guys, if you're watching the recording back, you'll be able to see kind of how the whole conversation went and why we were talking about certain things and how we got from A all the way through to Z, or Z, as I say. So thank you all for your time. Thanks for being on with us. We really wish that we could be out there with your players, of course. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Hopefully for tryouts, and then the new normal will be what we all look forward to being out there for. So, guys, if anyone has anything they want to just add as a sign off, or if we all just want to give our little thumbs up, and we'll close it out. Feel free to reach out to any of the staff that are here on the call. And yeah, thanks again for your time, and we look forward to seeing you out there.
Thanks, everybody.